company that your child keeps, the people that you have them around, definitely has an influence on your child. So you don't have to have a silver spoon in your mouth. You can be in a project. You can live in a project. And if your parents know how to govern themselves and they know how to train their child to become something better than their environment, and if they keep them off of settings of negativity, guess what? That child is going to rise up above all that nonsense.
It has something to fall back.
But if you keep them surrounded in that nonsense 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you're about nonsense too, you become a product of your environment. Period.
Damaging black children means that we are damaging black adults. And so that's why we need to really understand how to parent. And I think that we need to do a strenuous, detailed, concentrated re-education of African people, the entire community. Just because for 100 years this is how we've parented doesn't mean that it is necessarily correct.
Just remember that it's bigger than about time. And that's what we need to understand. It's bigger than just about more time and stuff. But see, we think that's the remedy. I just got finished saying what a strong remedy is. You got to get the older ones to support the programs of these youth. Like he go to basketball games with his son. You understand what I'm saying? It can't be just about you and yours.
Right.
Because one day that might be, the child that you're going to support might be the one that tells your child to pick up that gun. Because he had that influence on your child. But give him more time, you know what I mean? These guys do not have no respect out here. They have no discipline that bring order, and they have no order which bring, you know.
That's why y'all need to be locked up. I'm not taking it to another level, but what I'm saying, you that big and bad and you need to spend the rest of your life in jail because these guys be out here shooting in the street.
Well, let me
Don't
tell
care
you,
about these kids, that the kids can't play out on the blocks. You got plenty
And
of blocks
where that started, lots of in the home.
everywhere.
No, a lot of that starts in the home. Look, rules make you govern yourself with discipline. Discipline brings order, and order brings respect. You are not going with no respect. I'm talking about a little child trained up on a child.
I think that good parenting will alleviate many of the problems of violence in the community. If children are socialized early on to not accept violence, to not see violence as normal or legitimate, especially towards other African people, I think that will go a long way to eliminate much of what we see. And then it would be seen, because right now it's seen almost as normal, but it should be seen as an aberration and not a normal response to conflict. But if you teach a child through spanking or hitting or beating that violence is the way to deal with conflicts, then naturally you're instilling this legitimacy of violence in the home.
I know a lot of adults that live by that same philosophy. They have the worst behaved children there. You can't say anything to them. You want to just knock their heads off when they're out in public. And it's all right. But they grow up and sooner or later they run into that repercussion thing. And I don't think it's fair to the child to be introduced to repercussion when they're grown. Just metaphorically speaking, you know, if the child is not smacked before he reaches adolescence or early adulthood, it's going to be real traumatic when he gets spanked by our society, the upholders of our laws, spanked by the court system, spanked by the police. Then how is he going to be prepared to handle that then?
Proverbs 22:6 begins, "Train up a child in the way he should go." What real relevance does that scripture have in our society? Does it apply strictly to parents? Is there an implication of community responsibility? Does it speak to the level of security and safety that a community should expect to experience? Does it suggest a means by which prosperity can be maintained and found within a community? Does it address the relationship qualities between citizens, compassion, courtesy, respect, and honor? In an environment where the scripture isn't absolutely respected by adults, is it fair or even productive to point fingers at young people about destructive behavior? How many of your prayers for young people are followed by deeds?
Myself, as many people in my generation, my age group, who lived in the streets of Philadelphia, have had loved ones die. I have, all of my male cousins are incarcerated. I'm the only male of my family in my generation that does not have a criminal record. So I say this in knowing that a lot of us have been subjected to this whole epidemic of violence that really is born out of this culture of masculinity, this sort of fake bravado that we have bought into, we've locked ourselves into in a way of proving that somehow we are valuable, we are valid, we are meaningful, that we are significant beings on this planet, but that it has to be manifested only in this sort of very bravado sort of attitude, behavior that oftentimes is in conflict with society, that gets us in a situation that a lot of brothers find themselves in. So one way to sidestep it is to get with brothers who have not bought into to that identity, who are not suffering from that schizoid sort of identity crisis, and have those brothers who understand that to mentor these young brothers. That's our role, that we have to start pulling coats of these young brothers who are finding themselves in this sort of identity crisis so that they don't get into this gun violence that ultimately leads to their incarceration or to them filling up the graveyards.
I was listening to some young people talking, and a lot of them don't even expect to reach the age of 30. That's got to be a sad feeling, because you don't expect to reach the age of 30. What do you aspire to? And that's what they don't. They don't have any aspirations. So they're out there. They just hang out. Whatever happens, happens, There's no fear. There's no fear of death. There's no fear of death because what's the opposite? There's no hope for life. And if they don't have a hope for life, then why should they fear death? Especially the sad statistic is that, like in a city like Philadelphia, 70% of the African American households are female-led. So the male influence is not there. And believe me, I give all props to all the sisters that are raising families by themselves, but they're not men. And women can't make men. I don't care, how you, and that's a problem. But now we've got, we've got males, young males that are coming up that haven't been indoctrinated into what being a male, a responsible male is. We've got young men assuming roles that they haven't been trained for, that they can't identify with because they haven't seen it done within their culture. And it's a sad thing. And the first thing, it starts out, we as men have got to get back out there and get involved.
Same feeling, knee and hip. This one. How much? You understand? Ready. And back. And back. You can hit.
You see, unfortunately, the time that we live in now, where we see increased violence on a day-to-day basis, it's not new. Violence has always been part of man and his history. But there were people of a spiritual mind, of a higher or sense of enlightenment that created what I'm involved in, this martial art. It was actually designed to deal with what we refer to as habitual acts of physical violence by training or providing a ladder where a young man, young woman, family can go from the lower self to the higher self, where they can create a value system